3 days passed before Kara fully recovered. The medical bay of the Celestial Dawn combined the best of Sylvani healing crystal and human medical technology. The neural overload had strained her implants, requiring careful recalibration. Lyria visited daily, watching as the human gradually regained strength. Ember rarely left Kara's side. The small dragon had changed since the battle. Its scales now permanently held a faint blue glow similar to Kara's neural implants. The creature had grown, slightly larger as well. The station scientists theorized that exposure to the hybrid energy of human neural patterns and Sylvani crystal had altered the dragon's physiology. On the 4th day, Lyria entered the medical bay to find Kara standing fully, dressed in her armor. The bulky exterior had been repaired, but sections remained open, revealing the complex technology beneath. The neural implants on Kara's skin glowed with healthy blue light. "The Council has requested our presence," said Lyria. Kara nodded. "They want a full report on what happened." News of their victory had spread quickly throughout Sylvani space. The destruction of 5 void swarm vessels by a single station was unprecedented. The High Council had convened an emergency session. To discuss the implications, representatives from Earth had arrived as well, eager to understand how their technology had been used. They walked together through the station corridors, Ember flying between them. The small dragon seemed excited, chittering, and sending occasional telepathic images rather than words. Lyria noticed how station personnel, both Sylvani and human, watched them pass. Some with curiosity, others with reverence. The story of their connected consciousness had already become legend. Council chamber was filled to capacity. The circular room housed the most powerful leaders of both species. The Sylvani High Council, 7 elders whose crystal implants marked centuries of wisdom, sat on one side. Earth representatives in formal, military attire sat opposite. The tension between the groups was palpable despite their shared victory. Princess Lyria Commander Mason said, "High Elder Theron." His voice amplified through the chamber. "We have reviewed the preliminary reports of your encounter with the Void Swarm. We require first-hand testimony." Lyria stepped forward. Her royal armor gleamed, the crystal components shifting with her mood. For the first time in her life, she felt uncomfortable addressing the council. How could she explain what had happened, what they had experienced together? "The Void Swarm attacked with 5 vessels," she began. "We faced imminent defeat. Our crystal technology alone would not have saved the station." Kara stood beside her. The human commander had opted to keep her helmet removed. The neural implants visible to all, she spoke clearly and confidently. "The connection we formed was experimental," she explained. "We combined Sylvani crystal technology with human neural interface systems, creating a hybrid defense. The Void could not adapt to it because the patterns were neither fully human nor fully Sylvani, but something new entirely." Murmurs spread through the chamber. The concept was revolutionary. Crystal technology had been the foundation of Sylvani society for millennia. The suggestion that it could be improved by combination with human systems was both exciting and threatening. "How exactly did this connection work?" asked Counselor Vela, her eyes narrowed with suspicion. "Did you transfer our crystal technology specifications to your neural systems?" Commander Kara shook her head. "There was no transfer of technology in that sense. Our minds were linked through the crystal core. The dragon Ember served as a translator between our different mental structures." The small dragon preened at the mention of its role, its scales shifting to a bright gold with pride. "This hybrid defense you created," said Earth Admiral Laurent. "What exactly made it effective against the Void?" Swarm Lyria exchanged glances with Kara. They had discussed this question extensively during the humans' recovery. The answer was complicated. "The Void Swarm adapts to patterns," she explained. "Their artificial intelligence analyzes weapon frequencies, shield modulations, and attack strategies. They learn from each encounter, evolving their defenses, and both our technologies follow recognizable patterns," added Kara Sylvani. "Crystal technology, follows elegant mathematical progressions based on crystalline structures. Human. Neural interfaces follow patterns based on organic thought, but when combined, the patterns become unpredictable. Finished Lyria. The hybrid system created variations that followed neither human nor Sylvani logic. The void swarm could not adapt because they could not predict what came next. The implications are significant, said High Elder Theron, a new form of defense that the void cannot counter. Not just defense interjected Kara offense as well. The same hybrid approach could be applied to weapons, systems, communication networks, even ship designs. The council chambers erupted in excited discussion. The possibilities were endless. After centuries of fighting a losing battle against the void swarm, they had found something that might turn the tide. The combination of Sylvani crystal telepathy and human neural technology created something greater than either civilization had achieved alone. Admiral Laurent raised her hand for silence. There is a critical question we must address, she said. The connection you described required direct mental contact. A single Sylvani and a single human. How could this be scaled to protect fleets or planets? It was the question Lyria had been anticipating. The temporary connection she and Kara had formed nearly overwhelmed both of them. The neural load was too great for extended use. They needed something to manage the connection more efficiently. Ember chirped loudly. The dragon launched from Lyria's shoulder, growing visibly as it flew to the center of the chamber. The creature's scales shifted through multiple colors before settling on a brilliant white glow. The dragon had never appeared so large or so radiant. I can be the bridge. Ember's telepathic voice reached everyone in the chamber, no longer just Lyria. The dragon's mental voice was stronger, clearer than before. My kind evolved to connect minds. We can serve as conduits between human and Sylvani consciousness. The dragon's revelation stunned the council. Ember was one of the last of his species. The telepathic dragons had nearly been extinct for centuries, their numbers reduced to a few dozen specimens kept by the Sylvani royal family as companions and advisors. No one had considered that they might have evolved specifically for this purpose. Is this possible? Asked Counselor Vela, looking between Lyria and Kara. Could the dragons serve as permanent interfaces between our technologies? Kara nodded. During our connection, Ember absorbed aspects of both systems. The dragon adapted, in ways we didn't anticipate. Its telepathic abilities have expanded. I believe other dragons would respond similarly. The ancient texts speak of this, said High Elder Theron. His voice hushed with wonder. The prophecy of the bridge between minds. It was believed to be metaphorical, but perhaps Lyria had heard the prophecy as a child. An ancient Sylvani legend that spoke of a time when minds of crystal would join with minds of light to defeat the darkness between stars. She had dismissed it as a religious story. Now she wondered, we need to test this theory properly, said Admiral Laurent. A controlled experiment with willing participants from both species. Agreed, said High Elder Theron. And we must begin breeding programs immediately to increase the dragon population. If they are indeed the key to this hybrid technology, we will need many more. Ember grew even larger in the center of the chamber. The small dragon that once fit on Lyria's shoulder now stood as tall as her waist. Its scales rippled, with patterns of blue and crystal white energy seemed to flow through its body. The dragons are changing, said Ember, its telepathic voice stronger than ever. Our purpose is revealed. We will grow as the connection between your peoples grows. The council session continued for hours as the leaders of both species debated the implications and applications of the hybrid technology. Teams of scientists were assembled, research priorities established. A formal alliance treaty was drafted combining the strengths of both civilizations against their common enemy. Later, Lyria and Kara stood at the observation deck of the station watching the stars. The Earth vessels and Sylvani ships docked side by side looked strangely compatible despite their different designs. Ember rested between them, the dragon now permanently larger, its scales shifting between blue neural patterns and crystal white energy. What happens now? Asked. Lyria. Kara smiled, her neural implants pulsing gently. Everything changes, she said. For both our peoples, the Void Swarm has encountered something they cannot predict or counter. For the first time in centuries, they will be the ones adapting to us, rather than the reverse. Lyria nodded, watching as a Sylvani crystal ship prepared to depart. Its engines glowed with familiar energy. But now human engineers worked alongside Sylvani technicians, integrating neural technology with crystal systems. The hybrid designs were already taking shape. "I misjudged you," said Lyria, "and humans. I thought your armor was primitive because it looked that way. Appearances can be deceiving," said Kara. "That lesson has saved humanity many times. We learned early to hide our strengths, to seem less dangerous than we are. The strategy was wise," acknowledged Lyria. "Yet now you reveal everything to us." Why? Kara turned to face her. "Because sometimes survival requires trust," she said. "And because what we can build together is greater than what either of us could create." Alone, Ember chirped in agreement. The dragon had become the living symbol of their alliance, a bridge between technologies and species. Its telepathic abilities now served as the foundation for all hybrid system. The crystal core chamber pulsed with energy. The massive crystal structure at the center of the room reached from floor to ceiling, its facets shifting through colors as it powered the entire station. Around the central column were connection points, where Sylvani operators could link their minds directly to the station systems. Lyria led Kara and Ember into this sacred space. Few non-Sylvani had ever seen the crystal core. The technology was both scientific and spiritual, a living extension of their civilization. The crystal responded to their presence, turning a curious mixture of blue and gold. "We have 4 minutes before the void breaches our outer defenses," said Lyria. The alarm continued to sound throughout the station. In the distance, they could hear the faint rumble of defensive weapons firing. "The crystal core can amplify thoughts and energy," explained Lyria. "Our operators connect to control ship systems, defense weapons, and communications, but the connection requires Sylvani telepathic abilities to function." Kara studied the crystal, her neural implants pulsing faster. Their glow intensified as she approached the core. The crystal seemed to respond, turning more golden where she stood nearest. "My neural interface functions similarly to your telepathic abilities," said Kara. "It translates thought into digital commands, but there are fundamental differences in how the information is processed." Ember flew around the crystal core. The small dragon moved with purpose, its scales shifting through various colors. Finally, it landed on a connection point near the base of the crystal. Here it communicated, "Place your hands here, both of you. I will create the bridge between your minds." Lyria hesitated only briefly, then placed her hand on the crystal connection point. The familiar sensation of linking with the core flowed through her body. Her consciousness expanded, as it always did when connected to crystal technology. She could sense the station around her, feel the systems, and the people aboard. Her awareness stretched outward to the approaching void swarm. Kara removed her armored gauntlets, revealing hands crisscrossed with the same neural implants that marked her temples. The blue lines pulsed with light running from her fingertips up her arms and presumably throughout her body. The human placed her hands on the crystal beside Lyria's. Ember positioned himself between their hands. His small body began to glow. The dragon's scales turned a brilliant white light, emanating from between them. "This will be uncomfortable," warned Ember. "The translation between your mental patterns is complex. Be prepared." The dragon began to hum, a strange vibration that Lyria felt in her bones. The crystal responded, its color shifting rapidly. The sensation was unlike anything Lyria had experienced before. A pressure built in her mind, as if something was trying to connect, but couldn't quite find the right path. Kara gasped, her neural implants flaring with intense blue light. The Adai human grimaced clearly in pain, but did not remove her hands from the crystal. Their minds were too different, Lyria realized. The connection wasn't forming. The human neural patterns and Sylvani telepathic structures were fundamentally incompatible. Despite Ember's attempt to bridge them, the gap was too great. Then Kara did something unexpected. She began removing parts of her armor. With quick, efficient movements, she disengaged sections, revealing more of the neural implant network beneath the eye. Implants covered her arms completely, thin lines of blue light forming complex patterns across her skin. Not just the interface, Kara said through gritted teeth. She placed her bare arm directly against the crystal surface. The full neural networks, crystal flared with brilliant light. Lyria felt a sudden rush as the connection formed. Like a dam breaking, the human neural patterns flooded through Ember into the crystal matrix and into Lyria's mind. She gasped at the intensity of it. The sheer speed of Kara's thoughts was overwhelming. Information processed faster than Lyria had ever experienced through the connection. Lyria could sense Kara's consciousness. It was structured differently than a Sylvani mind. More linear, but with surprising complexity. Layers upon layers of thought processes running simultaneously. The neural interface allowed the human to think in multiple dimensions at once, analyzing possibilities and outcomes at incredible speed. Lyria, the station commander, spoke. Through the communication system, we have 3 minutes until shield failure. The void ships are coordinating their attack patterns. Ember glowed brighter. The small dragon somehow expanding the connection. Lyria could feel the station systems through. The crystal as always, but now with Kara's neural processing speed added, everything seemed different. Faster, clearer. She could analyze defensive capabilities and run simulations in seconds rather than minutes. I can see the void swarm pattern, said Lyria. Their attack formation has predictable elements. Kara nodded, her eyes now glowing with the same blue light as her implants. I see it too, she said. Their adaptation follows specific algorithms. They appear random, but there's structure beneath together. Through the crystal connection, they began adjusting the station's defenses. The crystal weapons reconfigured, changing frequency and patterns based on Kara's neural algorithms. The shields modulated following the unpredictable human thought patterns, rather than the logical Sylvani sequences the Void had learned to counter. The first Void ship approached, firing energy weapons at the station shields. The expected shield failure did not occur. Instead, the shields shifted, absorbing and redirecting the energy. The crystal defense cannons fired, striking the Void ship with pinpoint accuracy. We hit their primary processing node, said Lyria, watching through the crystal connection. They hadn't just hit it. They had targeted it, using Kara's ability to predict where the node would be based on previous Void ship designs. The crystal enhanced that prediction, making it more precise than either technology could achieve alone. On the station displays, the first Void ship exploded. The remaining 4 adjusted their approach, spreading out to surround the station. They fired simultaneously, their weapons targeting different sections of the shields. Lyria felt Kara's thoughts race through possible responses. The human mind worked with astonishing speed, calculating variables and outcomes faster than any Sylvani could. The crystal matrix amplified these thoughts, translating them into defensive actions. The shields held. The crystal core pulsed with energy as it implemented their combined strategy. 2 more Void ships exploded as the crystal cannons fired in a sequence that the machines could not predict. Each shot targeted weak points that only became apparent through the hybrid consciousness created by their connection. The neural load is increasing, warned Ember. The dragon's telepathic voice sounded strained. It's too much information for a single mind. Lyria could feel it through their connection. Kara's consciousness was struggling to manage the immense data flow. The human neural interface was overheating. The blue implants on Kara's skin flared painfully bright. Sweat beaded on the human's forehead and her breathing became labored. The final 2 Void ships changed tactics, pulling back and regrouping. They were adapting, learning from the destruction of their companions. Can't maintain this connection much longer, gasped Kara. Her hands trembled against the crystal. Too much data. Lyria made a decision. Without hesitation, she deepened her own connection to the crystal core, pushing her consciousness further into the matrix than she ever had before. She reached for Kara's mind through their connection, taking some of the neural burden. Don't do this, warned Kara. Your mind isn't structured for neural interface data. I'm not leaving you to bear this alone, said Lyria. The princess focused her telepathic abilities, directing them through Ember into the shared connection. The sensation was overwhelming. Lyria's consciousness expanded in ways she hadn't imagined possible. She could feel the station systems with crystal clarity, but also process information with the speed and precision of Kara's neural interface. Their minds worked in parallel, now sharing the load. The remaining void ships launched drones. Small crafts swarmed toward the station, hundreds of them. Each drone carried boarding mechanisms designed to breach the hull through their shared consciousness. Lyria and Kara reconfigured the defensive grid. Small crystal nodes throughout the station activated, creating an interlocking field of energy. The drones hit this field and disintegrated, unable to adapt to the hybrid defense. The final void ships turned to retreat. They had encountered something new, something their adaptive algorithms could not process. The hybrid defense created by human neural technology and Sylvani crystal was beyond their capacity to counter-target. Their engines, said Lyria, through the connection. We can't let them report this back to the main swarm. Kara directed the crystal cannons. With precision, the beams struck both ships simultaneously, disrupting their propulsion systems. Before they could adapt, the ships exploded, fragments scattering into space. Victory came at a cost. The neural load had taken its toll. Kara collapsed too, her knees, her implants flickering as her system struggled to stabilize. Lyria felt her own consciousness stretched thin, the connection to the crystal core taxing her telepathic abilities beyond their limits. Ember glowed brightly, creating a buffer. Between them, the small dragon somehow absorbed the excess energy, easing their separation from the hybrid connection. Slowly, painfully, they disconnected from the crystal core. Lyria helped Kara move away from the connection point. The human was pale, her neural implants dimmed to a faint glow. Her body shook with exhaustion. Medical team to the crystal core chamber, Lyria called through the station communication system. As they waited for help, Lyria stared at the human woman before her. The blue glow from Kara's neural implants cast soft shadows across her face, making her look almost Sylvani. The princess had seen neural technology before, but nothing like this. The implants seemed to pulse, with their own rhythm following patterns that suggested independent thought. Ember chirped softly from Lyria's shoulder. The dragon stretched its neck toward Kara, clearly fascinated. The creature's scales shifted through various shades of purple and blue, indicating intense curiosity. What is this technology? Asked Lyria. Her earlier mockery replaced by genuine interest. Kara smiled, a small expression that barely moved her lips. The adaptive neural interface, she said. She ran her fingers along the glowing lines at her temple. These implants don't just connect to my armor, they extend my consciousness into it. The armor is an extension of my nervous system. Lyria circled the human, studying the bulky armor with new eyes. What had seemed primitive now appeared mysterious. The armor plates were made of a dull gray material with no visible power source or control systems. Nothing about it suggested advanced technology. You move too fast, Lyria noted. No physical enhancement could allow such speed. Speed isn't physical, it's mental, Kara explained. When the neural interface is active, I process information faster. My brain receives data from all sensors in the armor simultaneously. I can analyze and respond to threats before they fully develop. That seems impossible, said Lyria. The human gestured to a nearby chair. May I demonstrate something? Lyria nodded, curious despite her lingering suspicion. Kara sat down and placed her armored hand on the table. The bulky gauntlet looked heavy and unwieldy. Watch carefully, she said. The surface of the armor began to shift. The dull gray material rippled like liquid metal, changing color and texture. In seconds, the gauntlet had transformed, becoming sleeker and more articulated. Small lines of blue light appeared, matching the neural implants on Kara's face. Nanomaterial, Kara explained, controlled by thought. The armor adapts to my needs just as the void adapts to weapons. It can become rigid for protection or fluid for movement. It can even the armor shifted again, forming a perfect replica of the crystal gauntlet Lyria wore. Mimic. Other technologies. Ember leapt from Lyria's shoulder, landing on the table beside Kara's hand. The dragon sniffed at the transformed armor, its scales turning bright gold. With excitement, the small creature looked up at Kara, then at Lyria. Her mind is different, the dragon communicated telepathically. She thinks in patterns I have never seen before. Part of her consciousness exists in the armor itself. They are one being. Not to Lyria had never heard Ember speak this way about anyone. The dragon was ancient and had encountered many species throughout its long life. For the creature to find a mind unusual was significant. You said humans are not what they appear. Lyria prompted. What did you mean? Kara returned her armor to its original bulky form. We learned early in our development not to reveal our true capabilities, she said. We are physically weaker than many species. We lack natural weapons, claws, or enhanced strength. We cannot breathe toxic atmospheres without assistance. These seem like disadvantages, not advantages, noted. Lyria, the human, nodded. But our weakness forced us to adapt differently. Our brains developed to compensate. We created technology that extended our natural abilities. When we discovered the neural interface, it changed everything. We could finally bridge the gap between mind and machine. The implications were staggering. Lyria realized if the human armor contained this level of technology, what else had Earth developed that they kept hidden? Why appear primitive when they were clearly advanced? Why the deception, asked Lyria. Why make your armor look outdated? Why hide your capabilities? Kara looked directly at Lyria, her eyes intensifying, their blue glow. In our early history, we made a mistake. We revealed our technologies too openly. We were targeted because of it. Several colonies were destroyed before we realized that appearing dangerous often made you a target while appearing primitive made enemies underestimate you. The strategy made sense from a military perspective, Lyria had to admit. She had certainly underestimated the human commander. Based on appearance alone, she had dismissed Earth as a worthy ally. Yet their technology might be exactly what the Sylvani needed to defeat the Void Swarm. And the weapon you used, asked Lyria. How did it penetrate void shields? The human extended her arm, and the blade emerged from her armor. It looked simple, almost primitive, with a straight edge and minimal design. Yet Lyria had seen it cut through advanced void shielding with ease. The blade is quantum linked to my neural patterns. Kara explained, the frequency modulation isn't programmed, it's intuitive. My mind adjusts the energy pattern. Faster than any computer could. The void can't adapt because the changes follow human thought patterns which are inherently unpredictable. Lyria reached out to touch the blade but stopped when Kara shook her head. I wouldn't recommend that, said the human. The edge exists in multiple quantum states simultaneously. It would cut through your armor before your hand made contact. Ember chirped again, circling around Kara. This human could be very valuable to us. He communicated to Lyria. Their technology, combined with ours, might create new possibilities. The dragon's assessment aligned with Lyria's own thoughts. The Sylvani had relied on crystal technology for millennia. Their telepathic abilities, enhanced by living crystal, had made them one of the most advanced civilizations in known space. But the Void Swarm had begun to adapt faster than crystal technology could evolve. This human neural interface might be the missing element. The station alarm suddenly blared again. Red emergency lights flashed throughout the room. Alert. The automated system announced multiple Void Swarm signatures detected approaching the station. Estimated arrival 6 minutes. All personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill. Kara immediately replaced. Her helmet, the neural implants disappearing behind the dark visor. Her movements were swift and precise. The armor's surface rippled briefly as if adjusting to combat mode. We need to get to the command center, said Lyria. Her own battle armor activated. In response to the alarm, crystal plates flowing over her body once more. They moved quickly through the corridors. The station had entered full battle. Readiness. Sylvani warriors rushed to defensive positions. Human officers coordinated with station. Security Ember flew ahead, guiding them through the chaos in the command center. General Oren stood before a large holographic display. The situation was dire. 5 Void Swarm vessels surrounded the station. Their configuration indicated a full assault. Force, not simply scouts. They must have called reinforcements after the first attack, said Oren. The breach was just to test our defenses. The display showed the station's defensive capabilities. The outer shields were at full strength, but previous encounters with the Void Swarm suggested they would not hold for long. Once the machines adapted to the shield frequency, they would penetrate the station's defenses and deploy hundreds of drones, Commander Mason. What capabilities does your ship have? Asked Oren. The Earthforged is docked at Bay 3. It has similar technology to my armor, Kara replied. But it's designed for stealth, not direct combat. Its weapons would be ineffective against a swarm force. This size. Lyria studied the tactical display, searching for options. The station had powerful crystal cannons that could destroy one, perhaps two swarm vessels, but the remaining ships would adapt and continue the attack. Communication with the Sylvani fleet had been blocked. The station stood, alone. Our crystal technology alone won't be enough, said Lyria, looking at Kara. What about combining our approaches? Your neural interface connected to our crystal matrix. Kara turned to her, the dark visor revealing nothing. Such a connection has never been attempted, she said. The energy patterns are completely different. Your crystal responds to telepathic input. My interface uses quantum neural mapping, but it might work, added Lyria. The crystal amplifies thought patterns. Your interface processes information faster than any computer. If we link them, it would create a hybrid system, said General Oren, finishing the thought. One that the Void might not be able to predict, or counter. Ember chirped excitedly. The small dragon flew in circles around both Lyria and Kara. Its scales flashed with multiple colors indicating strong emotion. I can bridge the connection. The dragon communicated. My telepathic abilities can translate between crystal energy and neural patterns. The idea was radical, unprecedented, but they had little choice. The Void Swarm would breach their defenses within minutes without something new, something the machines had never encountered before the station, and everyone aboard would be destroyed. It's dangerous, said Kara. The neural load could overwhelm a human brain. Your crystal technology was designed for Sylvani minds, not human ones. Lyria looked at the human commander. The woman she had mocked earlier for primitive technology now represented their best hope for survival. Sometimes, the most powerful weapons come from unexpected alliances, said Lyria. Are you willing to try? Kara was silent for a moment, then she nodded, once more removing her helmet. The neural implants at her temples glowed brighter now, pulsing with increased activity. Lead the way, said the human. The battle corridor echoed with the sounds of weapons fire, and the metallic clicking of void drones. Princess Lyria moved with practiced grace, her crystal armor enhancing her natural speed, as she led her elite guard toward the breach. The station shook as another explosion rocked the outer hull. Ember flew ahead of the group, the small dragon scouting the path. Its telepathic abilities allowed it to sense the enemy before visual contact, a skill that had saved Lyria many times in previous battles. The dragon's scales had turned a deep red, a sign it had detected danger nearby. We have 6 drones ahead at the junction, reported Ember directly into Lyria's mind. They have adapted to standard crystal weapons. Lyria signaled to her warriors, adjusting their formation. They had trained for this scenario. The Void Swarm was a machine intelligence that learned from each encounter. Their drones could rapidly adapt their shields to counter any weapon used against them consistently. The key was to use varied attacks and switch tactics frequently. The first drone appeared around the corner. Its insect-like form moved with unnatural speed, metal legs clicking against the floor. The center of its body housed a glowing core that powered its adaptive shielding. The drone registered the Sylvani warriors and immediately launched a barrage of energy bolts. Lyria rolled to the side, avoiding the attack. Her warriors spread out, engaging the enemy with disciplined precision. 2 more drones joined the first, and the battle intensified. The crystal walls of the corridor absorbed stray energy blasts, preventing damage to the station structure. Captain Naren, one of Lyria's most trusted warriors, fired a concentrated beam from her crystal staff. The energy struck the first drone directly, but the machine adjusted its shielding almost instantly. The second shot was absorbed completely. Their shields are adapting faster than before. Shouted. Naren Lyria noticed the pattern too. The drones were learning at an accelerated rate. This was new and troubling. A fourth drone appeared behind them, cutting off their retreat. The Sylvani warriors were now surrounded. Adjust crystal frequency, ordered Lyria. Her armor glowed as she channeled energy through it, sending a pulse that temporarily disrupted the nearest drone's shields. But the effect lasted only seconds before the machine compensated. 3 more drones joined the battle. The Sylvani warriors fought bravely, but they were outmatched. The machines adapted to each new tactic faster than before. Captain Naren fell to the ground, a drone blast having penetrated her armor. 2 more warriors were injured. Lyria found herself backed against a wall. A drone advanced on her, its metallic legs clicking menacingly. She had exhausted her crystal staff's energy reserves and her armor was failing. The drone raised its weapon appendage. The energy building for a killing shot, a blur of motion, caught Lyria's attention. Something massive moved down the corridor with impossible speed. The bulky armored form of Commander Mason appeared, the human, moving with a fluid grace that defied logic. The drone turned to face this new threat. But before it could react, the human was upon it. Lyria watched in astonishment as Commander Mason engaged the drone. The human's movements were precise and devastating. A weapon extended from the armor's right arm, a simple-looking blade that glowed with blue energy. The drone fired, but the human was already moving, dodging with inhuman speed. The blade struck the drone's central core, bypassing its shields completely. The machine collapsed, its lights fading. 2 more drones converged on the human, firing simultaneously. Commander Mason moved between the blasts, the bulky armor somehow not hindering movement at all. One blast that should have hit directly seemed to bend around the armor as if deflected by an invisible force. The human counterattacked, striking both drones in rapid succession. The blade cut through their adaptive shields as if they weren't there. Something about the weapon or the armor ignored the very technology that made the Void Swarm so dangerous. Lyria pushed herself away from the wall, joining the fight with renewed energy. Her crystal staff had recharged enough for one more attack. She fired at a drone that was attempting to flank the human. The blast distracted the machine long enough for Commander Mason to destroy it. The remaining drones retreated, pulling back toward the breach, a tactical decision that machines rarely made. The Void Swarm typically fought until destruction. Something about the human had changed their programming. Commander Mason turned to Lyria, the dark visor still revealing nothing of the person inside. The human's voice came through, calm and measured. Despite the intense battle they had just survived, your warriors need medical attention. Lyria stared at the human, unable to process what she had just witnessed. The bulky armor she had mocked had moved with impossible speed. The primitive-looking blade had cut through shields that Sylvani crystal weapons could not penetrate. Nothing about this human made sense. "How did you do that?" she asked finally. Her voice betrayed her confusion. Human tilted their head slightly. The gesture seemed almost curious. "Experience," Commander Mason said simply. Ember flew down from where it had hidden during the battle. The small dragon circled the human several times before landing on Lyria's shoulder. Its scales had turned a deep purple again, a color of confusion and discovery. "He is not what he seems," the dragon communicated. "The armor is more than it appears." Medical teams arrived, treating the wounded warriors. Captain Naren was alive but badly injured. The other warriors would recover. The breach had been temporarily sealed, but the station remained on high alert. The Void scout ship still lurked nearby, possibly calling for reinforcements. Commander Mason helped carry the injured to the medical bay. The human showed strength beyond what should have been possible, even with mechanical assistance. The other human officers arrived, coordinating with Sylvani security teams. Lyria noticed they treated Commander Mason with even greater respect now in the command center. General Oren reviewed the attack data. The breach had been precise, targeting a specific section of the station's defenses. This was not a random attack. The Void Swarm had specific intelligence about the station. This was coordinated, said Orin. They knew about our meeting. They targeted us specifically. Lyria felt a chill run through her. The timing was too perfect. The Void Swarm had attacked exactly when representatives from both species were meeting to discuss. An alliance against an enemy that could adapt to any weapon or defense working together was their only hope. The human delegation joined them in the command center. Commander Mason still wore the armor. The human had not removed the helmet even after battle. This violated every protocol Lyria knew. The station was secure now. There was no reason to remain battle-ready unless the human did not trust them. I need to know what happened in that corridor, said Lyria, addressing Commander Mason directly. No conventional weapon can penetrate void shields after they adapt, yet your blade cut through them without resistance. The other humans looked at Commander Mason. The armored figure stood silent for a moment, as if considering how much to reveal. It's not the weapon that matters, said the human finally. It's the frequency modulation. The blade changes energy patterns faster than their shields can adapt. That technology would revolutionize our defense capabilities, said General Orin. We have tried frequency modulation, but the void adapts too quickly. The human nodded. There are factors you haven't considered. Commander Mason turned to Lyria. The princess noticed how the other humans seemed to defer to the armored figure, waiting for permission. To speak further, we should continue this discussion privately, suggested Commander Mason's security protocols. Lyria bristled at the implication. She was High Commander of the Sylvani Defense Fleet. Everyone in the command center had the highest security, clearance, but curiosity overrode her pride. If the humans had technology that could defeat the Void Swarm, she needed to know very well. She agreed. Follow me. She led Commander Mason to a secure meeting room adjacent to the command center. Ember remained. On her shoulder, the dragon's attention fixed on the human. As soon as the door closed, Lyria turned to confront the mysterious figure. I want answers, she demanded. No more vague statements. If we are to form an alliance, I need to know exactly what Earth brings to this fight. Commander Mason stood silent for a moment. Then slowly the human reached up and released the seal on the helmet. For the first time since arriving, Lyria would see the face of the human who had moved with impossible speed and wielded a weapon that defied void technology. The helmet lifted, revealing the face of a woman with dark skin and short black hair. But what caught Lyria's attention were the subtle lines of blue light tracing across the human's temples. A network of neural implants glowed softly against her skin. The woman's eyes had a faint blue luminescence that reminded Lyria of the energy core in her crystal staff. Commander Kara Mason, said the human. Her voice no longer filtered through the helmet. My armor is not primitive, Princess Lyria. It's simply not what it appears to be, and neither are humans. Princess Lyria stood tall on the main deck of the starbase Celestial Dawn. Her long silver hair flowed down her back, catching the light from the stars that shone through the massive viewing panels. The luminescent markings on her pale blue skin glowed softly in the dim light of the reception area. Her pointed ears twitched slightly as she listened to the sounds of the approaching ship. Wrapped around her shoulders, the small dragon named Ember shifted its position. Its scales shimmered with colors that changed from deep red to bright orange as it sensed its master's impatience. The creature was no larger than a house cat, but everyone knew its telepathic abilities made it far more dangerous than its size suggested. Lyria was not happy. About this meeting, the Sylvani people had fought the Void Swarm alone for centuries. Their crystal technology and natural telepathic abilities had kept the enemy at bay, but recent attacks had grown stronger. The High Council had voted to seek help from the humans, a species Lyria considered primitive and unworthy. The humans had only achieved space travel 300 years ago, while the Sylvani had been among the stars for thousands. Still, the reports claimed these humans had shown surprising skill in battle against the Void Swarm on the outer edges of known space. Ember sent a gentle thought into Lyria's mind. They arrived now. The grand doors to the docking bay slid open, and a group of 5 humans entered. 4 wore the simple gray uniforms of Earth military officers, but the 5th figure caught Lyria's attention immediately. This one wore a bulky suit of armor that looked ancient and clumsy compared to the sleek crystal battle suits of the Sylvani warriors. Lyria exchanged glances with her advisors, their expressions mirroring her own thoughts. These humans sent a warrior in outdated equipment to negotiate with the most advanced civilization in the quadrant. The insult was clear. Commander Kara Mason, the human in the strange armor, approached with steady steps. The helmet completely covered her face with a dark visor that revealed nothing of the person inside. The armor made odd clicking sounds as she walked, and Lyria noticed how thick and unwieldy it appeared. "Welcome to Celestial." "Dawn, Commander Mason," said General Oren, the oldest of Lyria's advisors. "We hope your journey was without incident." The human nodded but said nothing. The helmet remained in place despite the formal greeting custom that called for faces to be shown. In peace talks, Lyria felt her annoyance grow. "I see Earth sends its finest technology to impress us," Lyria said, her voice cool and sharp. The sarcasm was impossible to miss. Ember shifted on her shoulders and sent another thought. "Be careful, he understands. More than you know." Lyria ignored the warning from her dragon companion. She was High Commander of the Sylvani Defense Fleet and had fought in 17 major battles against the Void Swarm. She did not need to show respect to a species that sent representatives in armor that looked like it would crumple under a training beam. The silence from the human was unsettling. Commander Mason made no response to the insult, no attempt to defend the strange choice of armor. The other human officers looked uncomfortable but also remained quiet. "Let us proceed to the meeting chambers," said General Oren, stepping in to smooth over the awkward moment. "Time is precious, and we have much to discuss regarding the Alliance." The group moved through the curved hallways of the starbase. The walls were made of living crystal that hummed with energy and changed colors based on the emotions of those who passed by. As Lyria walked past, the crystal turned a cold blue, reflecting her displeasure. The human in armor walked with surprising grace. Despite the bulky suit, every step was measured and precise. Lyria noticed that the other human officers kept a respectful distance from Commander Mason. Their behavior suggested the armored figure held significant rank or commanded unusual respect in the grand meeting chamber. The delegation took their places around a large circular table made from the same living crystal as the walls. The crystal responded to each person, creating a soft glow around their seat. Lyria noticed with interest that the crystal around Commander Mason pulsed with unusual patterns. "Why do you wear this armor to a peaceful meeting?" Commander Mason asked Lyria directly. "It seems unnecessary and limits communication." The human remained silent for a moment, then spoke for the first time. The voice that came through the helmet was neutral, without clear gender or emotion. "It serves its purpose." The vague answer only increased Lyria's frustration. She had expected the humans to be eager to explain their technology to impress the advanced Sylvani. Instead, this human seemed completely uninterested in gaining approval. General Oren began the formal meeting, explaining the current situation with the Void Swarm. As he spoke, holographic maps appeared above the table, showing the movement of enemy forces across the sector. The swarm had developed new adaptive shielding that could learn and counter Sylvani weapons, making each battle more difficult than the last. The Sylvani fleet has lost 3 outposts in the past month alone. Oren explained, "Our crystal technology cannot adapt quickly enough to their new defenses. We believe a combined approach with human technology might create an advantage." The human officers nodded and shared looks, but Commander Mason remained still. The dark visor revealing nothing, Ember suddenly lifted its head and stared at the armored human. Its scales shifted to a deep purple, a color Lyria had rarely seen. The dragon was detecting something unusual. "What exactly does Earth offer this alliance?" asked Lyria, her patience wearing thin. "Your weapons are less advanced, your ships are slower, and your armor." She looked pointedly at Commander Mason, is clearly outdated. The room fell silent. The crystal walls pulsed with tension. The human officers looked at Commander Mason, waiting. "We offer a different perspective," said the armored human finally. The voice from the helmet was calm. "Experience has taught us that appearances can be deceiving." Lyria was about to respond when alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed and the crystal walls turned deep crimson. A voice came over the communication system. Alert, alert, void swarm. Scout ship detected breach in outer defenses all. Personnel to battle stations. The meeting erupted into motion. The Sylvani officers activated their battle suits. Crystal armor flowed over their bodies, forming perfectly fitted protection. Commander Mason stood but made no move to change equipment or seek better protection. Princess Lyria, "You should move to the secure bunker," said one of the human officers. "This station is now a target." Lyria laughed. The thought of hiding during battle was offensive to her warrior spirit. "I lead my people in battle, not from bunkers." She touched a control on her wrist and her own battle suit activated. Crystal plates emerged from the small device, covering her body in seconds. The elegant armor enhanced her natural abilities and connected her mentally to the station's defense systems. "Stay here, human," she said to Commander Mason. "Your primitive equipment would only get in the way." As Lyria and her warriors rushed toward the breach, the last thing she saw was the armored human standing perfectly still. The dark visor revealed nothing, but Lyria had the strange feeling that Commander Mason was not worried at all, and that worried her more than the approaching enemy.